this topic, I'm actually going to cover the importance of communicating your findings to your wider audience. So far, we've talked about why it's important to know your users. We've understood what you need to find out about them. We've talked about the techniques, so the how to find information about them. Now you need to actually communicate those findings to the wider stakeholders. Otherwise, it's pointless. I'll give you a real-world example of a project that I worked on to solidify the importance of actually communicating what you do with your wider stakeholders. So I was on a project designing a website for quite a large organisation. The project started out really well. We engaged the stakeholders, we did interviews, we did focus groups, and really got to understand the business objectives. The client was on board, everybody was happy. The next stage of the process was the information design. I've already talked about information design in a previous module. So what we did was we recruited some users, did some card sorting, came up with an information architecture, made some recommendation, and presented that to the stakeholders. However, that's when the problems began. The problem was we didn't bring them along the journey. We didn't talk about the approach for the information design. We didn't set their expectations. And we didn't even introduce them into the workshops or the activities so they could see firsthand what the users were saying. Now, the project ended well because our recommendations were still sound and valid, but it really did highlight the importance of communicating your project objectives, your approach, and any information you gather during the research phase with your stakeholders. So in summary, this module has always been about users. We've talked about the importance of knowing them, understanding them to help you design better products for them. I've talked about how you go about accessing them and the types of information you need to gather about them. We've also talked about some techniques, both on a high level and on a deeper level. We've also talked about different types of techniques, both qual and quant, aimed at gathering rich insights as well as data that show patterns of use. And finally, the importance of actually communicating everything you've gathered during the research phase and anything you've gathered about your users with a wider audience. In the next module, I'm going to talk about some other techniques, more focused at usability evaluations to help you improve and refine interface design of your website.